Welcome to the Olly YouTube channel. Today I am on a video call with Cas Hariri. Is that
Yeah. It's actually
did
a
I get your
Lebanese
last name
name,
right? Oh, right
but
on.
my parents migrated here 30 years ago, and I've been living here ever since in the Netherlands, of all places. So all
That's super
across the
cool.
Atlantic. So nice meeting you as well, Oliver.
Yeah, right on. And so Cas has been helping me convert my Arduino VNT controller kind of dashboard sprawling mess into a nice, succinct PCB with some beautiful looking screens and switches all kind of integrated into it. And so I thought it'd be great to kind of hop on with him and get to talk about that a little, because so far he's very much just been behind the scenes crushing it. So to get
Sometimes
started,
literally, it's not
yeah,
always very smooth, and trying to do my best.
let's go. So I guess, Cass, do you mind giving us like maybe a little background about yourself? I guess you said you're in the Netherlands, and obviously you're an automotive enthusiast to some degree here. So um, maybe let's just start with why or how you got into kind of the circuit board side of things and how that became a hobby. And then we
Yeah,
can touch on like your own particular projects you're working on.
yeah, sounds really good. So I went to university starting 2012, actually in computer science of all topics. I really like that. I always have been hacking computers and programming even when I was young. I really love the subject. The only thing is you're stuck with your computer, right? I
Mm.
always want to have some kind of practical fulfillment of things, and from one way or the other, it really I got really into Arduinos and just interfacing with the real world and having sensors and just actuating stuff. And
Mm.
I had a small company when I was at the university. So in my graduation year, there was a small fund to help and support startups. So basically, that allowed me to make all kinds of small devices all around the home and also in buildings.
Oh,
One
cool.
of the things which I did was they had like this really huge building with all kinds of glass on one side, and that glass that got really filthy, and sometimes the cleaner didn't show up, when it was filthy, and sometimes it was clean, and then the cleaner showed up. So they wanted to have some kind of sensory device that you can see if it's dirty or not, and add the sensor and
Mm.
just basically measures the light intensity. Um, and yeah, I had that company for some years. After a while, didn't really do that much with it. I had a 9 to 5, and for some reason during COVID, I was just like, "Hey, I'm really bored. Let's just buy some kind of car. Let's start tinkering." A
Mm.
friend of mine had a garage, and basically I bought a Mark One, and
Oh,
basically the
sweet.
Rabbit in the US. So
Yeah.
I've actually been tinkering a lot with that. And actually, when COVID really ended, it also finished around that time. And for the first, I would say, half year, I was really happy with it. But I think you can attest to it. It's quite a slow car, right? Without the
Oh,
turbo.
certainly, yes. So you
Yeah,
had the naturally aspirated 1.6.
yeah. With the full
Okay.
50 horsepower.
Oh, all 50.
Well, I'm not sure because I was 40 years old, but it felt
Exactly.
quite slow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can tinker with the fuel pump. It will throw a lot of black smoke and
Hmm.
like just it feels faster, but I doubt it's actual fast. I think it's just a lot of smoke that goes out of the tailpipe. So yeah, so you start looking for solutions, and you're like, what should I do? Should I get a new engine in? And I was like, probably the fast part is just slapping a turbo on top of it.
Yeah.
And the scene here is actually in Europe. I'm just across Germany, and yeah, there's a long story about the Dieselgate and stuff. So to recap it, to make it really short, is that there's a huge pile of all the Dieselgate and all the older engine models just lying on all of the junkyards. So you can
Oh,
just
what?
yeah,
Damn.
like turbos from like VNT. I just pay like €50 for it, so it's almost
What?
$50. It's super
That's
cheap. Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah,
Interesting.
and yeah, and also the engine I showed you like 5 minutes ago. I'm sure the visitors haven't seen it, but I also have an ALH engine. I'm and that engine I just purchased is for $100. It's just
What?
that stuff is just piling up there, and
Oh,
no one wants to use
you're
it.
killing me.
So yeah, I just bought the VNT without actually knowing what I just like a turbo's turbo, right? And I put it
Mm.
on there, and then I found out,
Oh,
hey, it's stuff you need to control it. It won't work
yeah.
on its own. It doesn't have a wastegate. I'm like, "Ah,
Interesting.
fuck, how should I do it? And yeah, I designed with my electronic background and 75 controller. So you just look at how much pressure is it provides, and you adjust some kind of vacuum system. There's a
Mm,
solenoid, and just fix that. And
that's
then, yeah,
cool.
it's been working ever
Super
since.
cool. So, I
I
mean, sounds
haven't.
like you started as a computer engineer and now you're pretty much like an automation engineer.
Mhm.
Um, that's cool. And then the turbo you put on your 1.6, it's a VNT 15. Is it like the factory size ALH turbo you put on?
Yeah, it's a small one.
Oh, right on. That's cool.
It's
And you
quite
got
good.
that working, right? Like how is your pre-turbo, post-turbo experience?
To be honest, it's actually night and day.
Yeah.
But if you the thing here in Europe, you drive around the city a lot. So I would say then
Mm.
you don't feel the difference a lot. But an overtaking on the highway and just
Oh, yeah,
maintaining speed altogether, that's so different.
for sure.
Especially Germany is right around the corner. There's some mountainous areas there.
Mm.
Beforehand, I couldn't,
Yeah.
I just climbed the mountain. It was just full throttle all the time, and still you're not gaining
Oh,
speed.
yeah. Yeah, I have this distinct memory of my first Mark 1, and it was 1.6 naturally aspirated, and I was like
Mm.
cruising on the highway, and cruising on the highway at like
Mm.
50 miles an hour is basically like floored.
Yeah, yeah,
and it,
true, true.
and I like was like very slowly passing this box truck like already floored, and they were like stoked on the car, like, oh, like rev it up. And I was like, it is
Yeah, it's full throttle.
like,
True,
they're
true.
already mad.
Yeah.
It's super funny to look back on.
And
That's super
especially
cool, man.
the car is so light. I think probably it doesn't. I didn't add too much fuel to it. Maybe half a turn, and it
Yeah,
just flies. It's just so the car is just so light. So I think
yeah, that's
five
awesome.
10 horsepower is it added. It's great.
That's sweet. And so
Yeah,
now you're working on a donor motor, right? You have a
yeah,
ALH as well that you're gonna put in the car.
yeah.
That's
So
super cool.
yeah, the thing is with the 1.6, if you add up all the time which I spent on it regarding, you have those mechanical. I still have a mechanical head, so
Mm-hmm.
fine tuned that, and I did like so many small stuff. Also changed out all the seals, and after a while, I was just like, how much time did I actually spend on this thing? And then I started having like an Excel sheet, like spreadsheet. I'm like,
Oh
man,
yeah.
and if I spend like double on it, like what would be the end result? And I'm like, oh, I can go your route, which is very
Mm,
lovely. And I was like, in the end, it doesn't make sense for me. I could just put in an entire new engine, right?
mm-hmm.
So
Totally.
it's where the idea came from. I'll have a new engine, and it will be, the parts are newer because they're so readily available here. I can just grab one. And for me, the biggest thing was actually I broke. I'm not happy to tell you, but I broke three mechanical fuel pumps because
Oh snap.
yeah, yeah. And so two actually with the fuel color. I'm not sure you're for sure
Yeah.
you're aware of it. To get
Yeah.
that off, and also with inside of it you have the governor mod, so you open it up and you do all kinds of stuff with there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's so finicky, and you have to be really precise with things. And for me, it's just like, let's hook up a computer, let's add in the numbers, and it will work.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, we're definitely just slightly different in that way because I look at my electronic fuel pump that came with my ALH and I go, hooking up 21 wires. more than I want to do. I would rather swap the pump head onto my current mechanical
Yeah,
fuel pump and fiddle with it than try to program anything.
true, true.
Yeah.
Uh, and for me, it's just for me the trial and erroring thing. It's at the beginning it has its charms. You just modify something, and then for example, the governor mod, you add like one shim, and you're like, oh, it's not fast enough. Let's add another one, and then at the end, you just you have that open and closed so many times, you kind of lose track on what you're doing.
Yeah.
And for me, that's the point where I'm like, I just wish I could enter a number and it's like
Yeah.
magically updated.
Yeah, that's super fair.
But I get the charms with the mechanical stuff. You have you feel like you have the full control. You can just go in there, know
Mm,
how it works, and then modify it.
yeah. Yeah, and I
That's
think
neat.
to some degree it's a slight compromise. It is funny because I'm sticking with the mechanical fuel pump, but we have the
Mm.
full digital turbo control going on the other
Yeah,
half,
yeah,
which is kind of a funny contrast.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
when it comes down to it, I feel like for me, in my swap, I just didn't want to have to like change the gauge cluster and do the pedal, and
Mm.
I'm sure it's doable. Lots of people do it, but I don't know. Um, so that's awesome. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing your kind of background. Sounds like what we really need to start here is a business where we import Dieselgate ALH motors into the United States.
I think you
because
can do
when
it. Yeah.
because when I bought my ALH and I
Mhm.
drastically overpaid for it here, I think you could probably pick up a used one for like 250 to 500 US if you were like prudent
Mm.
about where you bought it from. But I was like excited when I bought it, so I
Yeah.
bought it for like $1,000, and it's definitely like not the nicest one. I still went through the whole thing anyways. So good on you for picking one up for like $100.
Yeah, I think it has like two sides because I think the ALH is such a legendary engine inside the US that it has kind of a cult following. So
Mm,
it's people know what it's about, right? And the thing which happened here is that after the Dieselgate, when that happened, many municipalities were like, oh, the diesels are polluting so much. We must close off our city centers for these diesel engines. So basically, they got all banned from actually going inside of the city. So if you live like in a suburb,
interesting.
you can still use it, but outside not. And then what happened is they also raised the taxes like drastically.
Mm,
And the people who own those cars, they were like, the car is fine, but I don't know, I don't want to sell it, buy a new one. So what they actually then did is drive those car into the ground. So like, and the
mm.
timing belt swap is maybe $200-300 perhaps, but they were just like, I'm not going to do any of that. I'm just going to
Oh, I
drive.
see.
It's completely destroyed, not spend any money in it, and
Yeah.
then when it falls all, yeah,
Right.
just falls together. Then yeah, they dump them in the scrapyard. That's why
I
there's so many
gotcha.
of them, but you don't know
Oh,
about the
I
quality.
see. I see. Because they
So
just run them into the ground before
yeah,
getting rid of them.
indeed.
Interesting.
But we together with our knowledge about this engine, perhaps I can invite you here, and then we can just try out some engines, do some compression testing, and then have like a full container and just send them back. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, great long-term strategy.
yeah.
Super sick. So, I sent you like just for everyone else to know who's watching. I basically made like a tables flow chart of how my Arduino diagram looks, and then Cass somehow took that mess and turned it into this beautiful PCB. Do you have like the PCB on hand? Could we look at it?
Yeah, actually, I have it. So the diagram which Oliver sent me, it's now gone. So you only have the PCB that you can see. So don't worry about that one. But yeah, so actually, there is a program where you can actually convert that into some project which you can then send out for manufacturing. So it actually looks like this. I'm not sure. Actually, I have to
Oh
disable
yeah,
the
that's cool.
drawing. Um, so it's not completely done. There are some
Mm,
bugs. So this is actually it. So here
that's super
are
cool.
yeah, these are the buttons for the VNT which you wanted.
Oh, sweet.
So you can
Yeah,
actually
that's so
change it out.
badass.
This is actually for disabling and enabling the device because one time in my car there was a shortcut because I
Oh,
bumped into something. Something was not soldered correctly, and then I start smelling something. And I
oh,
hope that will
geez.
not happen with you, but this will
Yeah.
actually disable it. Um, these
Cool.
are like general purpose, so you can actually program them to
Oh,
change the
badass.
screen.
Nice.
And yeah, so the LCDs, they're actually OLEDs, so they're really nice even when the sun hits them. So you actually can yeah, add them here. And of course, I will 3D print a nice case, but let me just add them so
Yeah,
then you can actually
Cass
see how that looks.
Cass
Right.
is a wizard. So we kind of landed on this yeah, like that beautiful thing is what my huge dashboard mess turned into.
Mm.
It's just that. And Cass is going to make a case for it. So I'll basically have like a gauge pod almost, or like a readout that sits on top of my dashboard that does all that instead of my like tangled mess of wires.
Indeed. Well,
Yeah, that
you still
looks
have the wires because at the
oh for
back, and
sure.
I haven't showed you that one yet. There's actually these terminal blocks where you actually, yeah, put in your EGT and stuff. So
Oh, that's so good though. I was half expecting. I wasn't sure what she did for the terminals because we didn't talk
uh,
about it, but I was half expecting I'd have to like solder them to the board, and I was a little scared because my soldering is like it's okay.
you can do that as well, but I would say these terminals are a bit easier.
No, that's fantastic. And then I can tuck all my wires behind the dashboard though and make it look nice.
Yeah,
That
indeed.
looks so good.
Yeah, thanks. So, yeah, for now, there are some bugs which I have to iron out. For example, you have here this wire which I need to put in there, and two of these buttons are not working. And there's also some issue there, so I have to figure that one out. But as soon as that is done and I have the 3D printed encasing, I'll send this as a present for you, so then you can start testing it.
So exciting. That's super cool, Cass. And then so moving forward, you'll send that to me, and then I mean, I believe in your work, so I kind of feel like it's
Yeah.
just gonna work. But then, I mean, I'll be able to give you any kind of feedback, and we'll kind of walk through what's left, right?
Yeah, for sure. There's actually two things. So it's all Arduino code. So I'll also share with you that code. I've done some debugging and some preliminary testing. So that you can modify it the way you would like it. Perhaps you don't like the menu I created, then you can just add some stuff there.
Oh, that's
And
interesting.
yeah, and the nice thing is I'm using ESP32, so that's actually an Arduino, but a bit faster. You actually have dual core, so the screen
Oh,
update time
sick.
is really good.
Oh,
Um,
nice. And so
so
when I get
mhm.
it, will I just like add my code to what you have in it already?
Yeah. I have a
Sick.
basic framework, so initializing the EGT sensor, it's all in there. Also, the motor H bridge code is also in there, and the MOSFET for driving your fuel cutoff also there. But
Oh, right
I
on.
tested it with light bulb, so perhaps, but I'm sure it will be fine.
Oh, you tested with a light bulb? That's perfect.
Yeah.
Nice. Um, yeah, did you so uh we never really like I didn't make a video about the rev limiter yet because
Mhm.
we built it one day, it worked for like 10 minutes and then it immediately broke.
Yeah, I have some inside
Because
info, so the
yeah,
viewers.
yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
that's what happened with it, and Cass,
Uh-huh.
of course, has the inside on that because I've been working with him to kind of condense the setup, and the rev limiter is hopefully part of it. Cass, did you have any keen insights, or like you must have tweaked the circuit somehow, right, so that it's better than how I made it that first time? I imagine.
Yeah. So the thing is, I actually had the same issue which you had with the solenoid, so the fuel cutoff solenoid, but on my VNT instead. So
Mm.
for the listeners out here, so what Oliver uses is a linear actuator. So basically, it's a motor, but it can just grow and go smaller, right? So it's bigger, smaller. And what I use for my VNT is the N75 valve. So that's basically you have a vacuum and there's a solenoid, and it just opens and closes very quickly, and you can change the percentage on how often it's closed and how often it's opened, and that adjusts the vacuum. Uh, Anyways,
So you have a
to bring,
solenoid basically.
yeah, so that's also a solenoid. And the issue I
Mhm.
have had with the solenoid is, if you give the solenoid a charge, there is actually it works with magnetism basically, but so then the magnetism basically rises, and whenever you remove the voltage from there, the magnetism really drops, but then you get the current which counteracts that magnetism, and that current goes back to your circuit, and that destroys stuff. So
Yes,
uh,
yeah, exactly.
so that's also what I experienced. And so when you
Ah,
said my circuit is destroyed, I'm like, I think I know what it is, because I had the same.
because you're a
But
pro at this already. I didn't know that. That's
yeah,
awesome. You
yeah.
already
So
went through the same
I found
process.
out the hard way. So it's always
Ah,
these things which pop up, but it's easily you can remedy it quite easily. So
that's super cool. Well, I'm looking forward to it, Cass. I mean, my ALH motor right now is getting very close. I'm kind of ordering all the little things at this. It used to be like pistons and rods, and now I'm onto like
mm,
coolant caps and belts and glow plugs. The last kind of like couple of trimmings, and then it's a matter of a couple big purchases like a clutch and whatnot, and then I can actually throw it in my car. So I'm getting super stoked for that. And then it's going to be paired with your beautiful looking controller and the rev limiter and everything. So I'm getting super fired up.
yeah, I'm also very stoked, because for me, the thing I built my engine with is it's for the drivability. So then you have this old Golf which goes a bit faster, and then you're happy that it can keep up with traffic. But the
Mm.
project you're doing is entirely on the different end. You're like building a Ferrari, so it's like really it's the other end of the spectrum. So for me, that's
Heck yeah. And I'm super glad you're involved. I'm curious, maybe just a brief touch. Did you just come across my videos by way of having a golf and looking for things, or what made you initially want to get involved?
yeah. So for me, initially the video which so I was posting a lot of content on my YouTube channel regarding how the VNT controller worked, and for some reason you got in my bubble, or it's called the search bubble.
Oh
And
yeah.
yeah, so the video which I watched, the first time was, I think, the 30 psi boost thing, where you're tinkering with your fuel pump.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
so that was really helpful, because I was actually, when I was modifying my NH, there was, if I depressed the pedal from the get go, I would get rev hang. So
Oh,
like,
right on.
yeah, yeah. So I was like, it's kind of sketchy, but why is this? Why is this
Right.
happening to me? And then I
Interesting.
figured out it's because I put too much fuel in it.
Interesting.
By watching your video, so that's how it all started.
Oh, let's
Um,
go.
yeah, yeah. So uh, yeah, from there on, you have so many nice videos. Also, I think when you added propane, I think, to your 1.6.
Yes. Yes, yeah. That was
Yeah,
a lamentable experience.
yeah. So I also had that in mind to try that out, and then for some reason,
Mm.
all of the things which I want to try, you have already tried them. So yeah. So
I'm
it
glad
was,
glad I could break the things for
yeah,
you
yeah.
first.
Indeed. So I looked at a video. I was like, okay, so this is not something I want.
Yeah. To be fair, the propane was good until it wasn't good.
Well, if your 1.6 engine is going out quite soon, perhaps you can retry it, right?
Oh, true, true. Yeah, that's what I feel like. What the track day is going to be for this weekend. I'm like, well, I'm replacing this motor, but I haven't like the last few times I damaged it were stupid. Like before I had any VNT controller, I blew a turbo because it was a VNT
Hmm.
turbo and I didn't control it. So the last couple failures were stupid, but I haven't had one that's just the engine's own fault yet. Like I haven't run it so
Yeah.
hard that it's broken. So I think taking it to the track this weekend is going to be a good instance to do that. Just run it hard for a long time. Try to get it to
Yeah.
blow.
Just see when it blows. Yeah. So I have actually a bet with a friend of mine. He was
Oh,
also the person who got me into all of this. He has
okay,
like three,
cool.
four cars, and one of that is original BMW M3. It's quite nice. I think the E46. So it's a very
Cool.
nice car. 300 horsepower is natural aspirated,
Badass.
and I tried to drag race him, but it didn't go well with the 1.6. But I have a bet that when the ALH goes in, I want to put everything like full out, so
Hell
turbo
yeah.
controller just don't cap it, like have like 40 psi or whatever,
Yeah,
and just
let's go.
to the max.
Let's
and
go.
But I think the Rabbits platform, perhaps because it's only front wheel drive, I think it'll just spin the wheels and throw a lot of smoke and blow the engine, and end of story. But we'll see.
It depends. I mean, to be fair, it yeah, I mean, sometimes drag racing the rabbit, I feel like I mean, I did that quite a few times and it's
Mhm.
maybe not quite a good drag racing car, but it definitely can hook up still for what it's worth. So I
Yeah,
believe
yeah.
in you.
I think you have proved it indeed, but we'll see if I can replicate this in this Wild West attempt.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Cass. I feel like we touched on some awesome stuff.
Yeah, it's been nice talking to you again, and I'll keep you for sure up to date on all the process and progresses, and I hope to send you the device very soon. So looking also forward to the video when you test it out. And
Awesome. Well, I'm so glad we could get you on. Thank you, Cass.
thank you so much, Oliver.